Welcome to Redtastic. Story 1. Backstory. My mom gave birth to me when she was only 18, after it took Grandma a lot of effort to convince her not to abort, which was her initial intention. So she abandoned me with my grandma, saying she never wanted me as she was just beginning her life and wouldn't let my presence interfere with it. So from that time, she disappeared from our lives. I, 24 female, was raised by my wonderful grandma who owned a small, niche handcrafted business. It was our livelihood, and I even learned the craft from a young age and helped out. As the years went by, the business kept going, but it wasn't exactly booming. It was just steady, providing enough to support us and provide for our basic needs. My grandma put her heart and soul into this business, and I was right there with her, learning the trade and doing everything I could to contribute. When COVID hit, the world turned upside down and we had to adapt. We had to close our physical store and move everything online during the quarantine period. It was a challenging transition, but we managed to keep the business afloat. Surprisingly, being online actually gave us a small boost in sales, which I would say helped us survive those harsh and difficult times of COVID-19. Not long ago, Grandma's health declined and sadly she passed away. I took on the full responsibility of managing the business. It was a lot of work, but I was determined to honor my grandma's legacy and keep our small family business going. I did everything in my power to keep the business moving. I put in long hours of work and even introduced the idea of customizing some of our products based on our clients' demands, just to ensure that they were satisfied. It wasn't easy, but I knew my grandma would have been proud. Now, here's where things get complicated. My mom suddenly reappears in my life around the time of my grandma's passing. It was a shock to see her after all these years, especially during such a difficult time. I even had a hard time recognizing her. But what shocked me even more was the reason behind her sudden appearance. It turns out that my grandma and my mom used to manage the business together at one point. Then she left us and abandoned us. Now she's back, claiming that the business is booming and demanding I turn over the shop back to her. In her mind, she's the rightful owner since before I came along, it was she who managed the store with Grandma, and even is named after her. The truth is, the business isn't exactly booming, it's just steady like it's always been. I managed to make ends meet. But it's not some extravagant success story. It's the result of years of hard work and dedication from my grandma and me. She's been accusing me of not giving her back what's hers. I can't help but feel that my mom is trying to lay a false claim at my feet to get her hands on my store. She wasn't there during the tough times, during the late nights and early mornings when we worked tirelessly to keep the business alive. She didn't contribute a single ounce of effort or sacrifice. And now, when things are stable, she wants it. Not even a piece, but the whole of it. I've obviously turned her down. Of course, it didn't go down well with her. Now she's consistently coming to the store and trying to scare me into submission. She called me every name in the book and made every threat. I'm at a loss here. Help me out. Edit. Business is legally mine. Update. So recently my mom contacted me again. Only then did I know the main reason behind her appearance in my life. Turns out her latest husband was in police custody for an offense and needed to be bailed out. In the end, when she realized I wasn't going to yield, she asked me to at least help bail him out or else she'll be on the streets apparently. I still turned her down anyways. I told her that since she prioritized her youth with her many husbands over me, then I won't be at fault for doing the same with my grandma's business and hung up on her. Thanks everybody for the help. OP, you're right to turn your mother down. Regardless of why she has suddenly reappeared in your life, you don't have to bend backwards for her, especially when you two don't have any relationship together. She felt she couldn't take care of you, but she should have still kept in touch. She shouldn't have abandoned you like that. I'm glad your grandma was there to look after you. I'm sorry about her death. May she rest in peace. Take care, OP. Story 2. Hi, for a bit of background, I, 28 female, live with my husband, 32 male, 2 kids, 3 and 5, and my mother, 57. My mother came to help me after I gave birth to my first child in 2016. Since my husband was at tech school, military, in a different state, While I appreciated the help, I did not ask for it, nor did I expect what happened next. My mother had been living with my sister, 35 female, for 2 years since I moved out in 2014. My mother kicked me out of where we were living due to me not wanting to work where she wanted me to. I had been working somewhere else and she made me leave that job to get this other one, which I did not like. She gave me an ultimatum to either stay at that job or leave the house we were staying at, the basement of my mom's friend's house. I called my boyfriend, now husband, and he took me with him and we've been living together since. My mother is very strict and she beat me a lot as a child. I was subject to not just physical, but mental and emotional abuse as well my entire life growing up. I was happy to finally be away from that toxic environment. Fast forward to 2016, after I had my daughter, my mother came to help me as I stated previously. The plan was for my mom to go back to my sister's after my husband got home, but that was not the case. My sister removed all of my mother's belongings from the room she'd been living in and moved them to her storage. She didn't discuss it with me or my mom, let alone my husband. In fact, to this day she's never mentioned what she did. It was news to us and we had to make the decision to allow my mom to stay with us. I had to take down my daughter's nursery and allow mom to take the room that was meant to be my daughter's. In 2020, she was diagnosed with Huntington's disease. She has been getting progressively worse and I don't know what to do. I do not want her to continue living with us. I feel I'm always on edge with her living here. She doesn't clean up after herself. I always have to clean the messes she makes. She gets up at least 20 times at night to use the bathroom and drink some water from the kitchen, waking me up every time. My kids still don't have their own room. My sister barely contributes. For background, both my sister and her husband work and they make good money compared to us. I am a stay-at-home mom while my husband is the only financial provider. This is also something that burdens me as we can barely support ourselves. I do not feel like this should be my burden, yet I feel like am I the a-hole if I ask her to move out? My mom is not a legal resident, so I cannot ask for any help from the government. I'm constantly having internal battles and lashing out on my husband because I keep so much inside. I had finally gotten away from her controlling and toxic environment. I feel like I'm trapped again, but she's ill now and I just feel like a dick. You're not the a-hole, OP. Having a parent live with you, especially one that was toxic to you in the past, is a really hard thing to do. Not to mention that she's also sick and you have to care for her also. It's normal for you to feel this way. Ask your sister for help. Tell her you would like to put your mom into a nursing home or care. You can't do this on your own anymore and that's okay. You've done the best you could for her. It's now time you focus on yourself, your family and marriage. Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. First of all, you never agreed to this, and while I understand that you feel obligated to help her, one would say you have done your part. Look into finding her somewhere to live, and maybe get your sister to contribute for a career, to see her if she can't manage on her own. Not the a-hole. Your mother is going to die from this disease sooner rather than later, but likely not before she needs a lot of direct care, which is not your responsibility to directly provide. But do you know where she could go? Is she capable of making decisions for herself? Does she have money to pay for care? If not, I hope you and your sister can figure out where she can go. This is a terrible situation. I'm sorry this is happening. It's very hard to be the a-hole when it comes to matters of your own household and property. She has no legal entitlement to be there and certainly isn't earning her way, financially or by other means. In fact, she's a burden. If you absolutely feel some level of obligation to her as your mother, you would be better off financially supporting her with whatever amount she costs you already. But the independent living situation would be better. Maybe try to work out some sort of arrangement with your sister. I'm sure you're already in for a couple $100 per month in expenses. Like I said, take that amount and pool it with whatever your sister can offer and get her out. Your sanity is worth it. Story 3. I, 16 female, used to have a good relationship with my mother. That has since crashed and burned since she dated and married my stepdad, Gary, 6 years ago. Gary treats his son, Ian, 19 male, like he's the center of the universe and expects my mother to as well. So she does. Anything Ian wants, Ian gets, and that usually comes at the expense of me. Ian wanted my room when they moved in. I was forced to go to another room to make the transition easier for everyone. Ian wanted a car for his 16th birthday. I didn't get braces for another year. Ian wanted to go on an expensive trip for spring break. I had to give up volleyball to make it happen. Ian wanted to have his side of family over. I was expected to find somewhere else to be, since I wasn't family. My mother just went along with all of this and acted like it shouldn't affect me at all. My dad was overseas for a long time and we used FaceTime, and he was so upset by what he was hearing. He's home now and he's offering to have me come live with him. I'm not seeing a reason not to go, and so I told my mom I wanted to go live with my dad. She predictably freaked out and asked why I would want to do that, and said that we had such a good relationship. She didn't understand how this came so out of the blue. I told her that we haven't had a good relationship since she blindly decided to follow Gary's lead and give Ian everything he wanted. And it always came at my expense. My mom tried to argue, so I said I also wanted to leave because she let them kick me out of my own house because I wasn't family. So I was going to go live with someone who was. My mom started crying and said she wouldn't let me go. So I told her that my dad was willing to go to court over it, and I was old enough to be able to say where I wanted to be. She's been a crying mess since I told her, and Gary is being a jackass about how awful I'm being. Here's where I might be the a-hole. He was bitching at me about how terribly I'm treating them and how I'm not thinking about them at all. I asked why I should. He never thought of me when he was taking things from me to give to his kid. I said, let's face facts here. You don't care about me. What you care about is losing the child support you spend on your son. He sort of went slack-jawed and I walked off. My dad said my mom called and threatened to take him to court, so he said he'd see her there. Now she's panicking because she realized he's planning on taking her to court over this. Mom and Gary of course think I'm the a-hole for making things hard for everyone, but my dad and grandparents say to leave and never look back. Am I the a-hole for wanting to get away from this situation? Now for some comments. Not the a-hole. You have been punished for her inability to stand up to her husband for far too long. I hope that life with your dad is amazing and he treats you how you deserve to be treated. She let him force her to stop treating you as family. You owe them nothing at all. Not the a-hole. Your mother's first obligation is you, not her husband, not her husband's son or family. You. She has failed in that, and your living situation is not tolerable. An adult would struggle to thrive in that environment, let alone a teenager. Go to your father's and don't worry about your mother. She made her choice. OP, your dad should really go to court over the child support too. You didn't have braces because the money paid for your stepbrother's car. And you couldn't continue extracurricular activities because the money went to your stepbrother's spring break party. You were kicked out of her home when the family visited because you're not family. Oh boy, your dad wins 100% custody instantaneously with that. Even without you saying you want to go live with him, you're 100% right. They care only about losing child support than having to pay it in the opposite direction. Clearly, they rely on the money to provide their lifestyle, as they have to cut things from your child support to provide it.